Peter. Okay, so welcome to the book launch of The Colour of My Heart. This is the debut book of Skip, and if any of you have had the opportunity of reading the book, you know it truly is a love story of hope, perseverance, and love. When I read this book, I laughed so much as I was listening. Well, as I said, I was reading, but at the same time, I was engaging in terms of the stories that were there. I could imagine some of the events that took place. So this book is seriously a work of love, you know, a work of love of a chapter in the life of Skip and Joan. And as I said, that just want to say thank you for being here with us today. So this is the book that we're launching today. So The Colour of My Heart, a true story of hope, perseverance, and love. And there's one line of this book that I'm going to start with, and I'm going to just use this for the book launch. Our hope is that in attending this book launch today, that you may enjoy the humour, experience the drama and the excitement, and empathize with the characters' lives and loves. But most of all, that you will celebrate the fact that the color of all human hearts is the same. And I added a bit to this, that I'd like to say that the color of all human hearts is love. And truly, this is a love story of Deniz and of Joan. And as we go on this book launch journey today, that I know when you leave from here, that you are going to have a smile on your face as you hear some of the accounts of some of the stories which are written in this book. Now we're going to go through, if there's going to be time for different people to share tributes. So if you would like to share a tribute, if you can send a message to Skip, send a message to David, to myself, and then there's going to be a time later on, we're going to say that, you know, it's open for tributes. So if you want to share a few words to Skip, to Joan, to David, that you'll have an opportunity for doing that. So just send us a message in the chat box and then we'll be able to reply back to it. So Skip, Deniz, would you like to say a few words to get started?
Hi everyone, lovely to see you. I'm only seeing a few photos. Hopefully we'll be able to see more as we go on. Thank you for coming, and we hope you enjoy the program today. We've tried to include various things which I think you'll find interesting, and perhaps you can hear in the background some of Sonic Salvation gospel band songs. It's a bit quiet, I'm afraid, but that's the best I could do at short notice. Anyway, look forward to hearing from everybody, and as we go through over the next 2 hours.
Okay, so we're going to start off first, that we're going to just, because obviously in terms of Deniz, Skip, Joan, myself, that we want to just ask God's presence to be with us now as we just start for today. So we're going to have an opening prayer, just ask God's presence to be with us here as we go through the book launch. And then from that, you're going to, after that, you're going to hear from David, the editor of the book. So Father God, we just thank you for bringing us all here today. We pray that as we spend some time together launching the book, The Colour of My Heart, that it will be a book that when it gets into the hands of the readers, that they will get to know that the colour of all human hearts is the same, and the colour of all human hearts is love. We pray that you will go ahead of this book, that it will go into places that we never thought possible, and that as readers read the book, that their lives will be changed. This is my prayer in the name of your Son with thanksgiving. Amen and amen. Okay, so David, if you would like to share a few, what was your experience like being the editor of this book?
The whole experience was very new and very interesting for me. So maybe a bit about my background first. I'm generally in the arts, in music, musical composition and performance. So I suppose prose editing is somewhat related, but this was very new for me. It's also interesting, of course, because I'm working with my dad, um, and I suppose there's lots of intergenerational dynamics when you're working with a parent on a big project. That's the diplomatic version. So we, yeah, I think we had a really good time. Of course, we had moments where we, we needed to get things done. We had arguments and resolved things, but actually, on the whole, it was a really, really good time. Really interesting experience for me. Really interesting to hear some of my dad's stories, which he's told verbally lots of times in a prose form, and think about how that can be put into a form that's accessible to as wide a readership as possible, without losing some of the specifics, like the particular Caribbean flavor, or the particular interest in music, or the particular interest in physics and the sciences. um yeah, and yeah, just very interesting experience, and I've learned a lot doing it.
Okay. What would you say was your biggest highlight in editing the book?
I think probably the biggest highlight was seeing it sort of really start to take shape. It's a big task, editing something, manuscript of that size as the first thing. And I think as it started to take shape, as it started to get, more readable, and as you go through the same, 5 paragraphs for the 15th time, and you're thinking, yeah, this is actually starting to flow nicely. And yeah, I think that was a real highlight, seeing it really take shape and become something that was, become the special thing. I think I always knew that my dad had written, really. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to read a few words out of your editorial foreword for us, please?
Yeah, I could do. I think I'll start at the beginning. So my acting as editor for this book is rather new territory for me. Although my career has thus far been within the arts, in music to be precise, within the arena of literature, I've never taken on anything remotely like the task of editing an entire book. And this is not just any book. It's the story of a period in my father's life which played a definitive role in shaping him into the man I so admire, and in so many ways aspire to be like. The rewards of this task have been so worthwhile that to describe all the benefits truly and fully in words would be quite as challenging as the actual editing. And I'll skip to the end now. This book is funny, too. For all I have said, the editing process hasn't been easy and shouldn't be romanticised. There have been many long days, late nights, arguments, debates on recurrent themes, the inevitable encroachment of editing hours into other parts of life, the competing priorities of any intergenerational endeavour, and on top of all that, taking this book through to completion itself has been a huge learning curve for both me and my father. But after difficult editorial decisions, we would often find ourselves laughing, really laughing, within minutes. Sometimes this occurred beyond rational control during the most difficult moments of the editing process. And it is my hope that in its final version, this manuscript communicates something of the joy and humour of my father's life experiences, and that this is infectious. I hope you will laugh at the more comical episodes, and that as you do, you might experience the same lightness of spirit that I do when I see my father throw his head back in uncontrollable laughter, or when he dismissively brushes off a current problem with a chuckle, because he's been through enough experiences, some of them recorded here, to laugh at the future. I think we could all do with more of the kind of confidence that lets us laugh at the future, not because our prospects are easy, but because we've seen people like my father exemplify such circumstance-free laughter, and therefore know that such laughter is also possible for us.
Okay, thank you. And I think this might be a nice time. Deniz, do you want to read the first part of your reading? And then after that, we're going to ask Floyd to share with us a little bit about your tribute and how you got involved with the project. So Deniz, if you want to read a little bit first, and then Floyd, just to, yeah, so then you'll be talking about your part in the story then afterwards.
Right. Well, as an introduction to the passage I'm going to read, I just want to remind all of you who are watching that Sonic Salvation Gospel Band played a very, very important part in my life when I was in Jamaica. And we did several albums. This is one, the first one, Jesus is the Way. And then the second one, Gospel Journey. And the third one, which is playing in the background, Our God is the Greatest. And we also did some singles, which several people might not have heard. So we had lots of adventures with Sonic Salvation Gospel Band. And this first excerpt from the book is one of those adventures. And it might give you an idea of what we went through sometimes to when we were going to play at a concert. And this particular concert I'm going to read about was up in the Blue Mountains at a little village called Westphalia. And this is what happened. To anyone familiar with typical English drizzle, or even a so-called downpour, all I can say is that until you have been in a real deluge in the Jamaica's Blue Mountains, you haven't really experienced heavy rain. Rain so thick and continuous that one's windscreen wipers simply cannot cope with the volume of water. Rain delivering such immense amounts of water that in literally minutes, tiny streams previously carrying just a trickle of water become raging torrents, carrying mud, stones, logs, and any other debris that might be in the way. We stopped for a while, as much as anything, because we simply couldn't see where we were going. Fortunately, the deluge lasted only a few minutes and stopped almost as quickly as it started. But the track, now saturated with water and slippery with mud, made the going more difficult, and we were progressing at a snail's pace. On rounding a sharp bend where the track widened slightly to allow vehicles traveling in opposite directions to pass when necessary, the foliage suddenly disappeared and the track continued along a sort of shelf cut out of the rock halfway up the side of a deep ravine. On our left was a steep wall of shale and mud stretching skywards, while on our right was a really deep drop down into the ravine, hundreds of feet below. Not a place for a nervous driver, I thought. Then all of a sudden, and without even indicating, Morris, who was still in the lead, came to an abrupt stop. I slithered to a halt behind him, almost running into the rear of his car. When we gingerly climbed out, noting our frightening proximity to the edge of the gorge, to find out what the problem was, we saw in dismay that about 50 yards ahead, the road was completely blocked by a huge mass of mud and stones deposited by a tiny stream, which was now gently crossing the track at that point. but which had clearly been a raging torrent during the recent downpour. Morris tut-tutted and shook his head. "The road well blocked, man. You need bulldozer for clear that." I walked ahead to the mound of stones and mud, climbed on top of it, and walked across to the other side. If we had brought half a dozen shovels with us and had a couple of hours to spare, we could probably have dug our way through, but we had neither the shovels nor the time, and I was determined not to be beaten by a bit of mud in the road. I paced out the length of the blockage and estimated its height above the surface of the track. An idea was forming in my mind that could only have been dreamt up by an impulsive physicist. I reckon that if we get a good enough run at the blockage, my forward momentum will carry me across before the car sinks down into the pile of gunge. I think I can make it through. But both Morris and Prince had serious reservations about my untested theory, and neither of them were willing to be the guinea pig for an experimental test of its validity. "That too risky, Skip. You sure you know what you are doing?" "I don't see that we have much choice unless we want to turn back and go home. And besides, my plan is all based on physics." The next few minutes were spent carefully reversing the three vehicles to the widening in the track to enable me to get the Vogue into lead position and to maximize the possible run-up distance. I climbed into the driver's seat and patted the dashboard. "Now let's see what a real car can do," I said boastfully. I revved up the engine and slipped straight into second gear, trying to achieve the greatest speed possible over the 50 yards or so between where we had parked and the blockage. The Vogue sailed over the mound in the road for the first couple of yards, but when its weight caused the tires to sink down into the pile of mud and stones so that the underside of the car was dragging over the top of the heap, it came to a very sudden stop. Irrespective of what gear I tried to engage, I was firmly stuck. Then, without warning, came the second deluge of rain. I climbed out of the driver's door, slamming it behind me, and was immediately drenched. Climbing down off the heap of mud and stones, I watched in horror as, for a second time, the gentle little stream transformed in no time at all into a raging torrent. Immediately, my mind started to race. Would the force of the water be enough to push the car down into the gorge? And if that were to happen, could we at least save the instruments beforehand? I ran back to the other two cars where everyone else was sheltering from the rain. "The Vogue is stuck in the mud, but I'm concerned that the force of the water might push it into the gorge. I think we should at least try to save the instruments inside the car." I didn't need to say more. With one accord, all the guys jumped out of the other two vehicles, and without a murmur of "I told you so," started helping me to drag the instruments, amplifiers, speakers, and the generator out through the rear door of my poor car and pack them onto the seats of the other two cars out of the rain. Everyone was soaked through long before we had emptied the Vogue. Then somebody had an idea. A quarter of a mile back down the track, we had passed a small rural shop and seen a few men sheltering from the rain. Spenger offered to run back there to ask if the men would be willing to come and help us rescue the car. To their credit, within a few moments, not only had the men located ropes, shovels, and anything else which they could find which might be useful, but ignoring the rain, they ran up to where the car was stuck, carrying everything they had collected. For several minutes, they tried frantically to shovel away at the base of the heap to see if they might be able to free the car, but to no avail. Then, attaching the rope to the rear of the car, we combined forces and heaved with all our might to see if we could pull the car back out of the mud and stones. However, whatever we tried, it soon became apparent that this was, at best, an exercise in futility. After about 10 minutes, they finally admitted defeat and apologized profusely that there was nothing more they could do. They had done their best, getting drenched in the process, so we expressed our sincerest gratitude and dejectedly watched them walk back down the road. Once they had left, we felt even more helpless, especially as the rain continued unabated. I stood there soaked to the skin and covered in mud, bemoaning the anticipated loss of my wretched car, until Marky piped up, "Skip, if we try and channel the water so that it flows mainly past the front and rear of the car, rather than hitting it full force on the side, we might be able to save it from being pushed into the gorge." By now, new mud and stones had piled up to the tops of the windows, so that the waves of water were flowing over the heap and actually over the top of the car. I was so desperate that I was going to lose the car that I didn't even notice when Marky and Fern actually lay down in the water on top of the pile of mud and stones, one near the front of the car and the other at the back, to form a human wall with their bodies to try and divert the flow of water and reduce the force on the side of the car, pushing it towards the gorge. Their attempt to channel the water showed complete disregard for their personal safety, as the force of the water might easily have washed both of them over the edge and down into the gorge. But over and above that, it was an act of amazing courage and loyalty, which I would never forget. The deluge suddenly eased a little, and as I was bitterly reflecting on my ill-conceived plan, having lost all hope of saving the car, I suddenly heard the most amazing sound, the unmistakable roar of what could only be the engine of a huge mechanical bulldozer. Yes, it was. And as the beast rounded the corner in the track ahead of us, beyond the blockage in the road, and finally came into view, whom should we see sitting up there in the cab by the side of the driver, shouting for all he was worth and waving madly, but Spenger. In all the drama and confusion, I hadn't even noticed that Spenger had had the presence of mind to try running in the opposite direction up the track to see if there was any alternative help. Apparently, only a short distance beyond the blockage, he had come across this beast of a machine parked on the side of the track. He had then located the driver, who was sleeping at the time and had to be woken because it was an emergency, and begged for his help. Promising great financial reward for his services, Spenger had persuaded him to drive the bulldozer back to us in our desperate plight to aid us. Seeing the bulldozer, I just stood there by my half-buried Vogue, with my mouth hanging open and with tears of joy and relief chasing the raindrops running down my cheeks. Spenger jumped down from the bulldozer cab, and we watched in awe as the beast took a first huge scoop of mud and stones from the heap in front of my car and dumped it over the edge of the gorge. Then, carefully and cleverly, the huge shovel was slid into the heap of gunge under the front wheels of the wretched Vogue and slowly raised until the car was finally tilted at the angle I had been hoping to achieve in my futile earlier attempt to get over the blockage. After an ominous crunch of gears as the driver selected reverse, the beast was then gently inched backwards, pulling the car behind it until it was completely clear of the remainder of the mud and stones still blocking the track. "See if you can start it so you can move it out of the way." I didn't need a second invitation and jumped into the driver's seat to see if the car would start. Considering the amount of water that had been flooding over the engine during the deluge, It was surely a miracle that on the very first turn of the ignition key, the engine burst into life, and I was quickly able to move the car out of the way of the beast. With no further obstruction to progress, the bulldozer made light work of the remainder of the blockage, shoveling the mud and stones down into the gorge, and within just 5 minutes, the track was clear. Spenger, endeavoring to fulfill his promise of great financial reward for the driver, came around to each person to collect any small change that we might have to hand. But with all our personal bags having gone on ahead in Brother Ira's car, the pitiful total we managed to find between us amounted to less than $2 Jamaican. The driver was clearly not best pleased, but after surveying our totally sodden, filthy state, he generously declined our offer. Nodding in resignation as we thanked him profusely, he wished us well, remounted the beast, and in a few seconds disappeared from view. Then just as quickly as it had started, the rain finally stopped completely. These Sonic Salvation Band members were certainly more than fair weather friends, with little or no concern for their personal safety, displaying the patience of Job with my foolhardy ideas, and intelligently taking the initiative to find a solution when I had run out of steam. They had helped me to save both the instruments and the car. I also couldn't help thinking that if there really was a God, he must surely have intervened miraculously on my behalf in this incident. By the time we eventually reached Westphalia, the sky was once again crystal blue and the sun was just going down. We were tired, wet, cold, and hungry. And to add to our misery, all the people who had been enthusiastically waiting for the concert had by this time mostly given up and gone home. When we explained to Brother Ira what had happened, he did his utmost to cheer us up by encouraging us to go and get washed and to put on some dry clothes and then meet at the house where we will be staying the night to get some well-needed food and drink. Don't fret, Skip. Tomorrow is Sunday, so when word gets around, the people will come back for the concert, which we could have in the afternoon. In fact, if we can combine the morning service and the concert into one, then we'll be sure to get a good crowd. There were no proper showers as such, just an overhead pipe with a large brass tap, which doused us one at a time with ice-cold water, causing us to clench our teeth, soap up, and rinse off at breakneck speed. Even though we were only at about 4,000 feet above sea level, I was completely taken aback at how cold the water was and how chilly the air felt. But once we had washed off the mud and got into some dry clothes, we felt revived and ravenously hungry. Thankfully, and to our immense relief, the wonderful smell of roast chicken, rice and peas, boiled yam and sweet potato was wafting from inside the house, and we needed no invitation to follow our noses. "Oh no, come and sit down, ya, so me love. We make enough bickle for all the people them, but now all of them gone at them yard, so uno have plenty food for eat." True to their word, the two elderly Jamaican ladies heaped spoonful after spoonful of rice and yam and sweet potato onto our plates, so that when the chicken pieces were delicately balanced on top of the pile, it all looked like a miniature volcano. For a full 10 minutes, the only sound to be heard was of utensils scraping the plates and shoveling forkful after forkful of the most delicious food into our mouths. Then, one after another, hungry, tired faces began to transform into glowing pictures of contentment, and everyone started to laugh and joke and shout as vivid memories of our afternoon's experience came flooding back into our minds. Skip Vogue almost gone in Addy Gorge. If we never channeled the water, everything would have gone. This year, one time that Skip physics fail him, sir. I did feel so embarrassed when we never have nothing to give the poor bulldozer man. But God is good, sir. Him save we from the gorge. Well, that might give you an idea of some of the adventures we had with Sonic Salvation.
Okay, so thank you for sharing. And you can imagine then, as when I was reading this for the first time, you're just imagining the story and seeing that gorge and thinking, this car might go again. And this, as you read the book, you'll realize that there were several incidences with cars, and cars that started off with everything in place, and by the next morning there wasn't much left. So if you want to have a taste of the humor and friendship of Sonic Band, then, as I said, highly recommend the book. So at this time now, Skip, would you like to introduce Floyd, who's going to do our first tribute?
That is my pleasure. Now, Brother Floyd was with Sonic Salvation Gospel Band from way back. And not only that, but he wrote many of the songs on the album, and which seems to have turned off now. So, Floyd, we might be asking you to strum a song on the guitar to remind us.
I'll do that later.
So it's my pleasure to hand over to the person who always took center stage when we were doing concerts, and who also wrote many of our songs which we recorded. So, Brother Floyd, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Deniz Skip Önaç. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Ruth. So good to see you, Claudine, and everyone else. Center stage is for Skip this morning, and I'm excited. It's morning where I am right now. I'm very excited. And just to point out a few things, I knew Skip was a fantastic teacher. I am familiar with many of the stories that are placed in the book, but I have to say, reading it is absolutely delightful. I am so excited, and I'm now talking with others who are reading the book. I spoke with Dainty yesterday, and she was just, let me use the American term, cracking up with laughter. Because Skip, it's fantastic. The language, when you read it, I literally go back in time and I feel, I smell, I hear, I touch. So Sheila says a movie is in the making, so I won't rule that out, but it's just fantastic. Well, Skip was my homeroom teacher, my form teacher, back in the early 70s. And he was such a great guy back then. He was cool. We call him cool. And so I became a part of the Sonic Salvation Band, and our friendship only grew from strength to strength at that point. But I like what his son, Dr. David, said, especially in his editorial remarks. And I thought, this is capturing the essence of who the man really is. And I share a story really, really quick. On one of those occasions when we were recording that album in the physics lab, I think it must have been the first album, Jesus is the Way, there was some controversy, a big blowout, a discussion. And it came down to Skip and myself. We argued. I mean, with strength. You would think that, these guys are going to have a fight, because he held his point and I held mine, and everybody stopped quiet. But after we finished, we went back in the studio. We just dealt with the issue. It wasn't anything personal. And I never forget that song, Skip. Love is a word used so often unheard in the songs on the lips of young lovers. But when quarrels cease, only Jesus brings peace. And he wants us to share it like sisters and brothers. Wow. It's just up to you. Let him love you. And that is the Skip that is reflected not only in this book, but in true life. And I'm sure everybody on this program will agree with me on that. Now, I don't want to talk too long because I'm familiar with all the stories and I'm very, very excited. So I've been encouraging people to grab the book and read it. Skip, I love to hear you talk, Patois, and it's fantastic. I'll just read something from my forward, and then if you want me to do something more, then you let me know, because I am so excited I'll talk for the entire program, and I don't want to do that. Now, while Skip is as fair as my white paternal grandmother, his darling wife, Joan, is a gorgeous lady whose complexion is as dark as that of my maternal grandmother. Their mixed race son, Dr. David Önaç, is himself now married to a beautiful, fair-skinned young English lady. I think that David's heart must be the same color as that of his father, Skip, who has no reservation about marrying Joan because his heart had and still has a certain color. I am in no doubt that as you read this book, you will not only be entertained, but that you will, above all else, discover what the true color of your own heart is, as well as what it should really be. In the dead of winter a few years ago, when I traveled to England to bury my father, it was my friend Skip who met me at the train station with a warm pair of gloves, a hot drink. The Skip that I had known all these years had not changed, despite returning to his home country many years before. Myself and my wife, Rosalie, heartily congratulate our brother, Skip, for putting together this enlightening, informative, entertaining, and life-changing offering. I therefore encourage everyone to buy, read, promote, and give this book as a needed gift. I declare that Skip's true life story will play its part in advancing God's kingdom here on earth. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Thank you. And are you in a position to give us a song now, or would you like us to do something else and then you give us a song afterwards?
Let me just go grab my instrument, so it will take me another 60 seconds. So do something and then come back to me.
That's okay then. Right, okay then. So, yeah, so Deniz, after hearing the tribute from your friend Floyd, what memory of the two of you comes like to your mind? Of he shared one of his memories. What memory would you like to share of your time together?
There are so many. Floyd and myself used to stay up late songwriting, and we collaborated on a number of gospel songs together. And these sometimes went way into the night, long after Joan was asleep in bed. We'd be there, him strumming the guitar and me making suggestions and mainly focusing on the lyrics. And we just had a harmony. And I mean, Floyd is probably the closest thing to having a brother that I had when I was in Jamaica. And I really appreciate that friendship that we share.
While we wait for Floyd to come back, is there anyone that would like to say anything? So when you heard Deniz reading that story, what thoughts went into your mind? What thoughts did you have as you were reading that story? Would anyone like to share what they thought when that story was being read?
I would like to share.
Okay, then.
I am Deniz.
Mm-hmm.
You might see my screen name is Deniz Whitaker Brown. Yes. I was on the trip to Westphalia. Skip, you might not even remember that. I was Skip's neighbor at the flats. We started at Frankfield together. He was the physics teacher and I was a general science teacher. And he was the Boy Scouts leader. I was the Girl Guide leader. And we formed such a friendship. Skip, I haven't read the book yet. I have it ordered. and it's on back order at Amazon. This man has a heart of gold. I was a young teacher. He was also a young teacher. I had absolutely no experience I just graduated from college. I had barely any furniture in my little flat. And Skip and myself became almost brother and sister. But I was on that crazy trip. I don't know how I ended up on that trip, but I was young and I wanted to go. I wanted to listen to them sing. So yes, Skip, I remember every detail on that trip, every detail about that trip. I even lost my bracelet on the trip. So, so yes, I do. Yes, Skip, I remember the onion sandwiches. I think it was onion and cheese. That was raw onion and cheese that you loved. And when you met Joan, I was at your wedding. It was an experience. So I saw you in Connecticut at Alvin's house a couple, maybe 20, 30 years ago. I can't even, David was a little boy at the time. And to think now you're now Dr. David, that is heartwarming. So yes, thanks for this opportunity. I would not allow this opportunity to pass. I know you didn't know me as Vanessa, V-N-E-S-T, so you must be wondering, who is this person? Yes, it's me, Venice. Okay? So congratulations. And congratulations, Joan. Good to see you guys.
Thank you, Venice.
Thank you for your warm tribute. And now we're going to be favored with a song from Floyd. And
well,
yeah, so thank you, Floyd.
And I hope it will come across clearly. I'll try not to play too hard. I'll see what happens. Put your hands together, drop your foot, me brother. You better catch this rhythm and come make we praise the Lord. Sing along, me brother, sing along, me sister. You better catch this rhythm and come make we praise the Lord. Many kind of people in this land. God love every woman, He love every man. Sing along, me brother, sing along, me sister. You better catch this spirit and come make we praise the Lord. Jesus is a leader, Him no pop no tricks. Be a true believer in His politics. Sing along, me brother, sing along, me sister. You better catch this rhythm and come make me praise the Lord. Clap your hands, stamp your feet. Thank you.
Well done, Floyd.
I wish Sheila were here to help me sing, or Sonia, or but I pray that the Sonic Salvation reunion will not be too far away.
No.
Okay. Thank you for that song, Floyd. And I'm sure we'll probably hear from you again before the book launch is finished. Okay, so Skip, is anyone else on the call that wrote on the tributes for you?
But I'm in the background. Hello, good morning from sunny Jamaica. Actually, morning here. I'm sure it's evening there. We're actually in the grill. So the background you see there is, whilst it is, it's not the actual thing. It certainly reflects from where I'm coming. But I'm really, this is Clifton Reed, who is a past student of the great Deniz Önaç, or Skip. I'm really delighted and honored. by my friends. I want to start by, first of all, Floyd. I'm looking at Floyd now, and I'm trying to remember the Floyd I knew as a student. I'm not making out all the features, Floyd, but the voice I remember. And I think I listened to both of you on a radio program recently when you were rehashing the connection and the music and the sonic salvation and all that experience. And I certainly remembered the voice and the features, but you know, it is somewhat different from perspective of a student, young students at Edinburgh Comprehensive School. But again, as I said, I'm honored, and I really want to start by congratulating my friend Skip, as we call him. And not just him, but Joan and David, for I'm pretty sure that their support has featured in the success of this book. Skip, not true? Staying up at night, providing the coffee and the whatever, providing the congratulations and so on. I can't wait to read the book, Skip. It has not yet reached. I know you've sent, as you said, a couple of copies, one here, one in the States, and I'm not sure what's happening, but not really yet. But I give it another week or so. If not, I'm going to just go ahead and order it like I'd intended from Amazon. But I can't wait to read the book, because what it represents for me is a reliving of what was really, to me, a very impactful part of my life, certainly. And I can't wait to read the stories and the many things. So it's a chance to relive that experience. And I know on reflection that I thoroughly enjoy that part of my life. The many trips, the many stories, the science exhibition, the visit to the river, all that thing with Skip just come flooding into my memory. And I'm looking forward to that. I note that my brief reading of the story speak of the transformational way that Jamaica has affected Skip. And I like to turn it around, that he has had a transformational experience, not just on the small community of Frankfield, where most of this experience was created, but through his book, for example, his physics textbook and his participation in many science exhibitions and teaching in other Caribbean countries and so on. He has had a tremendous transformational effect on the country, but in particular that Frankfield community, where he was quite revered by everyone, not just teachers and students and so on, but the inhabitants of Frankfield. I mean, they love this guy. This is a guy who had recognition no matter where in the community that he turned up. I mean, he was a scout leader par excellence, and that meant that he took us into every nook and cranny of the communities and in Jamaica. And so people knew Skip and really revered him. I mean, there's a story I commonly reflect back on. There was a time when I don't know if how many of you will remember this whole Kunta Kinte series, where they spoke of the Black experience at the hands of white settlers in Africa and so on. And it was a very, very impactful story when it came out in Jamaica. It evoked all kind of emotions in persons. And so you'd imagine that Skip being a unmistakably white fellow moving around in the community. You would imagine that persons may reflect some kind of animus. No, this white guy was received by everyone. That's the kind of impact that he had on that community. And so, he became more Jamaican than many Jamaicans, quite frankly, is the way I could put it. So I'm really very happy for this experience and look forward to reading this book. And as I said, happy to be part of the story. Skip was not just a teacher. In fact, to me, Skip was a teacher in the purest sense of the word, teacher. And it was not just about classroom stuff or educational, academic stuff in the classroom and so on. But Skip, I think Skip loved the idea of teaching people about life generally. I mean, I got that. And so when I read that he was an impulsive fellow, grew up in Derbyshire, I didn't see that impulsive aspect of Skip at all. From our young student eyes, this was a guy who had it together. And he was very deliberate in everything he did. I mean, you know, the scouting, the music, the band, everything to us was very deliberate. And he has through his, not just through his words, but just through his deeds, just the way he integrated and the way that he engaged everyone, kings and paupers. The way he engaged everyone was a tremendous life experience for us and an example to us. And I think I certainly feel that more than any other teacher, he has had the greatest impact on persons I become, and I'm certainly sure my colleagues will agree similarly, that he has had a tremendous impact on who we are and what we've become. And I certainly hold my debt of gratitude for that. And so his many past students and fans, particularly in Frankfield community, but Jamaica in general, I'm sure should be looking forward to reading this book. I can't wait to relive the experience and the stories and so on. And I certainly will be helping as much as possible to promote this book. And Skip, just reminding you that I already have Dervin Malcolm from Hot 106 lined up. So whenever you feel the time is right, we'll be looking forward to that interview on live radio. And I really feel that all Jamaica will benefit from that interview, and will certainly do a significant thing towards promoting the book. And I wish you every success. And congrats to you again, and congrats to Joan and to David for ably supporting the work that evolved eventually into this book, The Color of Your Heart. And we have lived the color of your heart, Skip. Your students, we know what it means, literally. So as I said, it's going to be a lot of reminiscing when I read this book, and I can't wait to read it. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to participate in this book launch. And I know it will be successful. Looking forward to reading it. Thank you.
Anything you'd like to reply back, Skip?
Ruth, can I just interject here and say,
Yes.
Clifton was one of the most brilliant physics students I have ever taught. And he is now one of Jamaica's most renowned medical doctors. Congratulations, Clifton.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done. Okay, so as we can see on the book, it's not just Deniz. On the front of the book is Joan, his lovely wife. And at this time now, we're going to have a short extract of how they met. Yeah, we're going to have a short extract of how they met. So we're going to read another, Deniz is going to read another part of the book to share with you the story of him and Joan. So over to you, Deniz.
Okay. Now, as all you young men will appreciate, when a man gets to his mid-20s, he starts to look round and think, well, who would make a suitable soulmate? And I was looking round, certainly in Jamaica, and I didn't seem to be able to find the right person, that very special lady. And I have a feeling that the principal of the school tried to do a little matchmaking, and this is the result of what he did. I'll just say that we used to go on scout camps during the last week of the summer holiday every summer. And on this particular summer, I think this would have been 1975 or 6, we came back very late at night, and I had no idea who my new neighbor was going to be in the adjacent teacher's apartment. So here we go. Alas, the week soon came to an end, and our minibus arrived to take us home. There was no need to carry a vast quantity of food on the return journey, so it was not quite the squash it had been on the outward trip. By the time we arrived back at Frankfield on the Sunday night, the day before school reopened for the new school year, it was already dark. And after all the camping gear had been safely stowed away in our scout storeroom up at the school, it must have been after 11 o'clock, and I was absolutely exhausted. The apartment next to my own was in darkness, and I wasn't even sure if it was now occupied. So, postponing any possible introduction to my new neighbor until the following day, I headed for the shower, and after a quick wash to try and remove the worst of the grime, wearily dropped into bed and was soon sound asleep. Next morning, the start of the new school year, I woke very late and barely had time to make my breakfast of the statutory bacon sandwich and coffee. Hastily dressing, locking up my flat and rushing down the steps, I decided to make up for lost time by heading straight across the playfield. I was quite proud of my reputation for being on time, and it wouldn't look good to be late, especially on the first day. However, just as I got to the corner of the building, I heard a gentle female voice call from the path behind me. "Hi, Skip." I was so startled that I almost dropped the books I was carrying, and pivoting on one leg, turned around to see the most beautiful sight I had seen for a long time. "Hi, who are you?" Now, it must be said that this illustrious reply was probably not my most endearing introduction of all time. Although the young lady looked somehow familiar, and I had a strong suspicion we had met at some point in the past, I honestly didn't have a clue whom I was facing. As I had been told on a number of occasions by various people, "Skip, unless it's physics or maths, you never remember anything." And now, true to fashion, with this wonderful, angelic-looking young woman before me, my mind was drawing a complete blank. She had smooth, dark brown complexion, brown eyes, and a cute, gently curved nose. Her hair was combed in an absolutely perfect afro, which I found irresistibly attractive. She was smartly attired, with her ample bosom modestly hidden by a light blue, short-sleeved blouse, neatly tucked into an alluring red miniskirt, which would have caught any man's eye. Each time she smiled, her teeth shone white in the bright morning sun, and I noticed that her lips had on the faintest hint of pink lipstick. Although she was not very tall, the miniskirt accentuated the length of her smooth, dark brown legs, while her feet were adorned in a pair of smart new sandals. I stood there spellbound, no doubt with my mouth hanging open, but totally lost for words. I wondered if I might possibly be dreaming, but this was no dream. Finally, and no doubt sympathizing with my obvious forgetfulness, the angel took pity on me. "I'm Joan, don't you remember? We met just a few weeks ago before the summer holiday at Rico's party. I'm your new next door neighbor." Her speech sounded clear and refined. Her words delicately spoken in perfect Queen's English, quite unlike the 40 scouts I had become accustomed to hearing over the last week. "My new next door neighbor. Wow, you caught me by surprise. So sorry I forgot who you were. Typical of my memory. Welcome to Compre. Are you going up to school? We better hurry or we'll be late." As we walked across the newly cut playfield and up to the school drive together, I couldn't help but wonder if this might be that nice Jamaican girl I had been waiting for. My heart was beating overtime as we chatted amicably, smiling back and forth on our first walk together up the Compre School drive. Later that day, I called in at Mr. Latty's office to appraise him of our most enjoyable scout camp. and to put his mind at rest by playfully assuring him we had not lost any of the boys while we were away. Very glad to hear that, Skip. Thank you for giving up some of your summer holiday to take the boys camping. And then with a slight hint of mischief in his smile, he went on, I presume you have met your new next door neighbor. She seems very pleasant and refined. So I am sure you will get on. I nodded in the affirmative, wondering to myself if Mr. Latty was intentionally trying to do a bit of matchmaking. You'll notice Joe got up and walked away during the middle of that.
Now,
I think she's still a bit shy.
Well, somebody told me something this week as we were having a conversation for preparing up for the book launch. Skip, it was your anniversary this last week, wasn't it?
It was.
Would you like to share with everyone here how many years it is that you and Joan have been married?
You remember, honey?
You remember, sure.
44 years. And where the years have gone, I cannot imagine.
Yes, when he shared, I sat down and I thought, imagine Skip just read in the book as to when they first met. And 44 years later, they're happily married. And you can still feel the love that's between them, that relationship that's there. So we just want to say congratulations to the two of you. And we just want to wish you many, many more years together. And I don't know if anyone at this time would just like to say some words of congratulations to the two of them before we just continue with the next part of the book launch. So anyone like to share anything, any words of congratulations to them?
Yes, Ruth, if I may. First of all, as they say here in Jamaica, when I grew up, I wanted to be like them, like Skip and my wife here. We are just a mere, we are what, 26 years. We certainly will not catch up the 44 years because, as you know, the years are added on both sides. But that is exactly why I need to read this book. I mean, as a student, we wouldn't have been privy to these juicy stories that Skip is talking about. We had no idea. We just saw this wonderful, wonderful couple and knew they were enjoying each other. But we would not have been privy to how the story started. And to think that Mr. Latty had something to do with putting these things together. I mean, it's just icing on the cake. I mean, I really can't wait to read this book. And tremendous congratulations to Skip and Joan. I mean, it's just been fantastic. Congratulations again on 44 years. That's a lifetime, literally. Congratulations.
May I just add my word of congratulations as well? We're following you, Skip. I don't know how we'll catch you up, you and Joan, but we are gone 30. So we're going to head to see how close we can get to you. Congratulations to you and to your darling wife, Joan. I am relaxing because I know a lot of these stories because I've been with Sonic and with Skip. So this is really good, especially in times like these when divorce seems to be more rampant than real marriages. So this is a good example for the world to see, to know about. And Skip, this is just the first book, so don't get too comfortable because you have a way of writing and you bring the character, you bring the scene, everything to life. I know that you are good because you have corrected, you have edited some of my papers back then, even when during my teacher day training days when I was doing my thesis. But to see you do what you do, now I understand there is another dimension to you that you need to explore. There are many stories there that will bless the world.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Thank you, Floyd. Thank you.
I would like to say something.
Yes, Claudine.
That's okay.
Hey,
First
Claudine.
of all, congratulations, Skip and Joan, for launching this book and for having so many wonderful years together. I received a copy of the book. I have a copy here. I started reading and I'm enjoying it to the fullest. I also tried to get my son a copy and he's reading it too. That's Jermaine. And I would also like to tell you, Skip, that many of the things that I'm reading so far, I'm learning a lot more about the Sonic Salvation Band and all those years in Jamaica. I look forward in finishing up the book and also to, write what I have to say at the end. So congratulations again, Skip, David, and John. And I'm looking forward to enjoy many more of what you have to say, and also continue to listening to the music, especially Floyd. I think you made CDs, so I'm looking forward to have those too. And I still have my LPs here with me, and sometimes I do play them. And the songs are always a blessing to me. The songs on the LP, a blessing to me and my family. And I look forward to continue sharing the story about the Sonic Salvation Band. Thank you, Skip. Congratulations.
Thank you very much,
Roses
Claudine.
fade within an hour. Whenever the sun comes up each day, but very soon will lose its yellow. Very soon will fade away. A speck of cloud can change the weather and stops the song the bird sings. But there's one thing that lasts forever. That's the love that Jesus brings. One of my favorite from Prince.
Me too. Beautiful.
Can I just say, Claudine is the wife of Brother Prince, who was our lead vocalist from the very start of the band. And sadly, Brother Prince passed away some years ago, and he's sadly missed.
Yes.
Pam, I think you were wanting to say something.
I am. And then somebody came to my door, so there we go. I haven't known Deniz and Joan for very long compared to you guys at all. But what is always very obvious to me, and what I have recognised as I have got to know them a little bit better, particularly Joan, I suppose, is two things really. And one is their depth of love for each other, which is just so obvious. So congratulations on 44 years. It surprises me not one bit. But also their their depth of relationship with Jesus. And that shines out of both of you as well. And I'm sure that is probably a big part of what has sustained you and helped you to grow together over the years. And I've also ordered the book, but it hasn't arrived yet. But I'm even more looking forward to it than I was, because I love people's stories. And I always think we should spend more time telling each other our stories of life and what God has done with us in our lives. And I'm always up for listening to another adventurer, because I'm an adventurer. And I'm just delighted that you have taken the time and the trouble, and David has taken the time and the trouble to document your adventures through life. And I'm just having the best couple of hours. And as well as I've got the book on order, I now want to know if I can get this music and how I can get a copy of this music, because it's doing me good.
That's my next project.
Oh, great. Good. You need to relaunch. That's what you need to do. So thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Can I just introduce Pam is one of the members at our home church in Eam. Thank you, Pam, very much.
You're welcome. I've no idea where everybody else is, but they're missing out. That's all I can say.
Can I just interject briefly? A couple of people I'm in contact with are saying that the password, that they haven't got the right password or something. Ruth, can you and I correspond about that on the chat? Meanwhile, and I'll try and sort that out while my dad can keep talking. Sorry to interrupt.
Is Alvin Day here?
Yeah, he's trying to get in, but it's not letting him in apparently.
Okay, let me. Okay, David, when he puts it in, he needs to put it in with the capital letters and small letters as it is.
Could you?
I'll put it in the chat for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning.
Hi, Larry.
Hi, Skip. Hi, June.
Hello,
Larry. Floydus.
Good to
Dr.
see you,
Reed.
man. Good to see you.
Hey, Larry, boy. Hey, brother.
Clifton made me feel nervous, man. Jealous. You know,
No need, brother. I'm really enjoying this.
Yes. Let me first congratulate Skip and Joan for celebrating 44 years.
Thanks, Larry.
These days, any marriage over 10 years is a milestone.
Oh, yeah.
And 44 years, we're talking about 44 4 milestones if we take it by decades, and that's much longer than most people live in the world. So I am thrilled and happy to be able to bring greetings first from my family and from the Wrights family on this wonderful occasion. We have not got no book yet, Skip, but I wonder if you mentioned the cantatas, because you were also a very, that was also a very big part of your association with the community. Clifton mentioned some of those associations, but the Frankfield Church, played a very big part. Well, we benefited greatly from the music that you brought to the cantatas that Ira started. And to date, I still wonder how I got into Salvation, the Sonic Salvation band, because I was just a little keyboard player learning. But I have grown, tremendously as a result of the association with the band members. Frankfield was a major part of my development, and thanks a lot to you, to the band, And, you know, those years at Frankfield were the best years of my life, you know, like so many of us. And, you know, it's amazing how God allows our paths to cross, you know, at different times, different stages in our lives. And, you know, I just want to big you up. I realize that you still have not mastered the patois in its authentic form. And, you know, we always enjoy hearing Skip talking patois because it just never come out right. Just never come out right, Clifton. And, but, you know, I am thankful that, you know, we met, and you have been a very, very integral part of the Wrights family. You know, all of us love you. My father would have been so excited to know, you know, for this occasion. And yeah, I know you and he had a good relationship, you know, Joan too. So congrats, man, big up, and enough blessing and all the love from us.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth, I think Alvin is now connected.
We can get Alvin to speak next, that's fine.
Yes, I think so.
Do you want to introduce him, Dennis?
Yeah, Alvin, better known as Spenger in the first story that I read. We grew up almost side by side in Frankfield, and when he left to go and study in the US, we kept in touch. And when he came back to get married, I had the privilege of being best man at his wedding. We've had a lot of fun and adventures together. Over to you, Spenger.
Well, thank you so much, Skip. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you are. I am the noted Spenger, Alvin Day, and I'm delighted to share a few words from a good friend, Skip. I don't know if Skip knows this, but I have regarded Skip as my best friend in the world. Short of Grace, of course, Skip, you have to take second position.
That's his wife.
Yes, that's right, my wife. And one of the reasons was that I met Skip when I was a youngster in school trying to find my way. And Skip didn't try to teach me anything. I just watched the man live, and it was amazing. He came from a strange place. And the reason we call him Skip, I don't know if anybody else has spoken about this or anything I will speak about, but I had some technical difficulties getting on. So you pardon me if I repeat a thought here and there. One of the reasons we call him Skip is because when he landed off the plane in England, he walked on the tip of his toes as if the bottom of his feet were hurting. He just bounced along.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was weird. He just bounced along on the tip of his toes, and then he had this big square satchel bag that had everything physics in it. And he just looked like something strange, an aberration on the landscape. So needless to say, 1,300 students or something like that at Compre High School saw him as something very peculiar. And I must tell you, to this day, he is a bit of an idiosyncratic gentleman. My commendations to Joan for sort of trying to normalize him, but Skip struck us as somebody who was unafraid and who was living life out loud and large. And I must tell you that he probably didn't try to do this, but for children like me who grew up in a place where, for example, I didn't have electricity, I didn't have running water, life was pretty basic. To be able to get in Skip's Red Vogue and drive around the island and discover my own country, was quite an adventure growing up. And Skip exposed us to music, he exposed us to our own people, exposed us to our own culture and our own food, and made us somebody, and made me somebody. I didn't understand the British ways. He taught us some peculiar songs and so forth. And yet in all of that, there's one primary reason why I've had a lot of respect for the man who wrote this book. And the reason I'm going into this personal connection here is because the writer of a book, somehow if the person actually wrote it, comes out in the pages. It is, despite his scientific knowledge and his ability to communicate clearly to his students, despite his mathematical knowledge and his ability to communicate to his students, his technical competencies, his gifts, his talents, and so forth. The one thing that has endeared me to Skip has been his heart. Clear, clean, no hidden agendas, just as you see him, and meaning well for everybody. I have seen this man sacrifice, and help students he had no obligations to help. And some of you will, most of you will not know this, but there was a time when I was struggling in my own education because I thought I needed to drop out of school and get a job in sixth form. And I think at the time Skip was getting a volunteers kind of wages thing, enough to buy his food. He wasn't even getting paid as a regular teacher. And Skip agreed that he decided that he was going to help me. I didn't ask, he decided that he was going to help me. And I'm wondering, how can he help me? And he gave me a little bit out of the little bit that he had to help me just put things together to stay in school. So in a certain sense, I owe Skip just everything that I've achieved. But it's not the money that counts. It's not the things, it's not the skills, it's the heart. And I have tons and tons of stories like all of you do. But I think this thing about the heart in him is a hope for mankind, because we're in a rough day these days, as everybody will know. You know, racial conflicts, cultural conflicts, all kinds of things around the world. And if we could just simply go back to who we were when we were children and not follow the directions of society and the news and so forth, the world would be a better place. So I believe that those who read this book will find in it a sort of embedded code for how you get along in the world, how you can attract people to your life, and how you can feel like your life is working out and give you a sense of well-being. Because I know that Skip had a lot of pressure on him to deliver as a teacher, and yet somehow on weekends he made time to get in his car or his van and go somewhere to play music, to go somewhere for us to hang out on the beach and so forth. And he provides a sort of balance in life where, despite all the frenzy and the stress and the uncertainty and the hatred, it is still possible in 2021 to live a life that is fun and exciting and adventure. And for this, Skip, I am grateful personally. I know others are also grateful, but I really believe that it is embedded in that sort of simple approach to life that led you from a sophisticated place called England to what I now regard as the center of the universe, Frankfield, Clarendon. Can somebody say amen to that?
Amen.
Praise the Lord.
Amen.
I have to believe that Frankfield is the geographical, cosmopolitan, and magnetic center of the universe as we know it. And one of the reasons is because folks like Skip were there. So if you have not read the book yet, you really need to read this book. It's very easy to read and it's full of stories. And if you know people who could benefit from a life of freedom, ease, and adventure, I recommend that they read this book as well. Skip, thank you so much. John, thank you so much. And my sympathies for you for putting up with somebody so strange and idiosyncratic and yet so wonderful. Anyway, I actually believe that normal is a bad thing. And that's not something of which Skip has ever been accused, being normal. Because normal is average and ordinary, but to be supernormal, to be abnormal in a positive way is what this book portrays. The adventures on the side of the mountain, going up to Blue Mountain to play music, the adventures of a white man walking into a bar with black people accusing him of being somebody who comes to Jamaica and taking all the money and getting all the bauxite job, and then have Skip unfurl several sentences of patois that makes him back up against the wall and go, cool virgin. those are times to remember. But again, I end with this notion that all of us in our adult careers who have to face the rough and tumble and the stress and the pressure and the politics and the hatred and so forth, there's still hope for all of us to find that sort of balance by embracing people who at the first did not look like us, but are quite like us, and not coming to our personal relationships with prejudices and unfair discrimination and biases and so forth. Because it is when we open up like we were when we were children, open before society taught us the rules, that we had some of our greatest moments. And I want to tell you that those great moments are still available, but they start here in the heart, where love begins and where relationships are real. So, hey, the color of my heart, it's still red, right? Thank you all so much, and congratulations, Skip. Congratulations, so proud of you. I know it's hard work from having written myself, but I know that it will be a long-lasting legacy, and I'm so proud of you and the rest of the family, Joan, David. Thank you all for giving me a moment to share.
I suppose it's like, do you want to say anything, Deniz Skip, in response?
Sorry, what? I didn't catch that.
Do you want to say anything in response?
Oh, what can I say? We go back a long way, Alvin and myself, and this is the same. Those who were listening in at the first story, this is the same young man who found the bulldozer to save us from disappearing into the gorge. So we go back a long way.
That's great. That was adventure, Skip. That was high adventure, right, Skip?
High adventure.
I mean, it was amazing, really amazing. Yeah.
Ruth, I see that the fourth tribute writer, Dr. Philip O'Connor, is now on the screen.
Okay, so we can
if
get
you'd
him.
like to,
if you want to
invite him.
Would you like to introduce him?
Yeah, Philip. Again, Philip was one of the early members of Sonic Salvation Gospel Band, and he's actually living in the UK now, and we sort of re-met through coincidence, or perhaps through God's wanting us to re-meet. And it's really good to be able to share old times with Philip. So I look forward to hearing what he has to say.
And of course, he was head boy at Compre, right?
Yes, that's right. Is he there?
He's on screen. But...
Yeah, probably. Make sure you're not muted, Dr. O'Connor.
I'll message him privately and see if I can sort it.
Okay, so while we wait for the fourth tribute, I suppose I should share my part of this journey, this story, why I'm here this this evening, morning, afternoon. So this time last year, July, I wrote a book. I'm going to show you my book. So my book's called Home at Last, Your Journey of Faith in Challenging Times. Now, this wasn't my first book. I had written a devotional book, a self-help book around stress management. But during the lockdown, the God that so many of us have been talking about this evening gave me this idea. And I'd written the precursor of this book. But during lockdown, God just says to me, I want you to rewrite this book. And when I rewrote the book, it shares about the journey that we go on with God. And it asks, there's three main questions in the book. The first question asks, how important is God in your life? The second one, do you have a personal relationship with God? And number three, where are you planning to spend eternity? Now, I had written this book and had the intention of just dropping this book onto Amazon. And my editor, the equivalent of David, said to me, this book is too good for you to just go and drop the book on Amazon. Go find yourself a publisher. And my publisher was on the call earlier on today, but she's got another event that she needs to go to. And instead of just publishing my book, she said to me, Ruth, why don't I do one step further? Why don't I teach you? I'm always looking for a student that I can share my knowledge with, so you can set up your own publishing company. And then when God brings people who want to publish their book, so I publish books in terms of faith-based books, I publish books in terms of well-being, education. So that's the area that I'm going to be publishing in. When God brings people to you, then you can give them the gift of changing their manuscript into a book. Now, I got a phone call from a teacher that I used to work with, and she says to me, Ruth, I've got a friend who's looking for a publisher. Can I put him in touch with you? And that's how Deniz and I met. And I just thank God for allowing us to meet, because like many of you, when I started to work on this project with the book, The Colour of My Heart, I was going through a rough time at the time. And God just allowed me to see him through this book in a new way. He allowed me to see, I'm a scientist as well. So like where Deniz is a physicist, I'm a biologist and a chemist. So we complement each other, I guess, in all three science subjects. But I'm just thankful to God for allowing me to be the publisher of this book and to be going on this journey with Deniz. And we have so many ideas that we're just asking God, like, just to open the door so that this book can go to places. Because as we look around and we see how society is, that as so many of you are saying, that if people take on board the lessons which are in this book, when people take on board that the color of all human hearts is the same, you know, if we open us up inside, our insides are the same. And if we start to focus on what we have that's the same instead of what's different, then the world will be a better place. So for this weekend, those of you who haven't got the book, if you go onto Amazon, the book is now available as an ebook. So if you don't want a physical book and you want an ebook, the book is available as an ebook. The book is available as a paperback. So this is the paperback version. And because of the God who we serve, I got selected by Amazon to be part of a pilot of having the book as a hardback book. So if you want a hardback version of the book, a version that will last a long, long time, the price that we've basically reduced down the prices for this weekend. So if you would like to have the ebook, the softback, or the hardback, if you go onto Amazon, you'll be able to just click. I don't know if I can go onto my screen and share. Let me just see. I know I set this up earlier, but yes. So if you go onto Amazon, you can see The Colour of My Heart. So for this weekend, the Kindle edition, if you've got Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free. The paperback is £10. The hardcover is £15. So for this weekend, in celebration of the book launch, if you want to go onto Amazon, so it's Amazon UK, you can go on Amazon America. So it's on the different Amazon networks. If you want to go, then you can go and get this book. For, you know, if you want to read it on Kindle Unlimited, you can read it for free, but just go and support the cause. And our goal is to see, let's see how far up we can get the book. When we first launched the book, we got into Amazon top 100 books, and we're going to see whether or not we can push ourselves, like by more of us writing reviews. So we've got one review at the moment, so we've got one review. So all of us who were here this today at the book launch, after the review, after the book launch, let's go and leave a review, and let's let people know about this book and how it's going to change and transform lives. And as we work together, sharing this story of love, a story of hope, of perseverance with others, then who knows where God is going to take this book. So Deniz, thank you for allowing me to be your publisher and to bring this book into the world.
My honor.
Let's take it to the top. Number one.
Yep, let's take it to the top.
I think if Philip is here now.
So I've just had a quick phone conversation with him. He basically, the summary is he's very, very busy just right now, moving between about 6 different meetings, he said, and he's actually on the road right now. So he can see the video, but I don't think he can hear what we're saying, and it's just not going to be possible, I think, for us to have audio. He's going to get home as soon as he can, and hopefully before the end of this, he's going to try and do something in person.
Thanks,
But
Dave.
that's the situation at the moment.
Mm.
Okay, so thank you for that. So I think we're going to hear now the third extract from this book. And one of the things that Joan was influential to some extent as you read the book is around Skip's faith journey. And as most of you say, you know, Skip and Joan's faith has been integral in part of their relationship and the choices that they've made in their life. So we're going to hear his third reading from the book around how he made that decision to accept God into his life. So Skip, the third reading for today.
Thank you, Ruth. Let me just say before I start the excerpt, my life was rather strange as far as my relationship with God was concerned, because when I went to Jamaica, I wasn't a Christian. And one of the paradoxes was that I started a gospel band.
Yeah.
And all the way through those first few years, I felt very uncomfortable with the fact that I was leading this band, and yet I wasn't a believer myself. And I suppose it came to a crisis point where I had to make a decision. And this excerpt now describes that occasion. After I awakened from my 50 winks, I found that I still had an hour to kill. So I decided to drive back onto the highway, take the slip road leading to the minor road passing over the top of 6 Miles Bridge, and park on top of the bridge to watch the sunset. It was obviously going to be a spectacular affair, with fluffy wisps of pink cloud arcing across the blue-purple sky from Blue Mountain Peak in the north to the ocean way beyond the airport in the south. I sat there in the MGB with the top folded back, watching the huge, beautiful red fireball sinking gradually lower and lower towards the horizon, thinking to myself that those physicists who asserted that such a beautiful world all came about entirely by chance rather than by intelligent design clearly couldn't see the wood for the trees. The creation theory just seemed such an obvious explanation. There must be a higher power behind everything who had planned it all in minute detail. If people wanted to refer to that higher power as God, then so be it. I had no problem with that. But then I reasoned, if I accepted that God had the power to create the entire physical world, surely he must also have the power to sort out people's problems. Maybe, just maybe, if I were to put my trust in this almighty power and acknowledge him for whom the Bible claimed him to be, he might just show me a little of his infinite greatness and mercy and help solve my particular problem of being irrevocably and deeply in love with a woman who didn't love me back in the same way. As I continued these theological reflections, without warning, I felt a strange, unusual tingling sweep through my body when I asked myself, what would I have to lose by casting aside my reluctance to believe in God? After all, as a physicist, I couldn't deny that many of the things I implicitly believed in already, such as the universality of the laws of physics throughout the universe, were just as much an act of faith on my part as believing in an unseen God. If I really believed such all-encompassing theories to be true, what was stopping me putting my faith in an all-creating, invisible God in the same way? Was it just stubbornness on my part? If so, was there actually any genuine obstacle to my embracing the Christian faith? Was my current agnostic state really any more justifiable than believing in a real God? For some reason, my mind suddenly focused on the crucifixion of Jesus, which I had been reading about recently in my ongoing personal Bible study. From all my research, the evidence definitely pointed to Jesus' death as a factual historical event. So if, as the Bible would have me believe, he did that for me as the means by which I or anyone else could retrieve the intimate relationship with God that I should have, why shouldn't I accept it? In fact, it would make less sense not to believe. In any case, what did I have to lose? With embarrassing tears running down my cheeks, I bowed my head and prayed as best I knew how, unsure whether it should be God or Jesus that I should be praying to. Thank you, Jesus, for dying that awful death by crucifixion, to allow God to forgive me for all the bad things I have ever done. I was afraid to use the word sin, which would have made me feel like I was admitting to being a really wicked criminal. Please help me to believe in you and to accept God's forgiveness for all those wrongs. And come to think of it, there were quite a few. And please help me to start a new life as a Christian believer. Oh, and one more thing, Jesus, if you would be so kind as to intervene on my behalf in my relationship with Joan, so that she starts to love me as much as I love her, then in return, I promise I shall serve you faithfully in every area of my life from now on. That seemed like a pretty fair bargain in view of all the things I would probably need to give up. Thanks, Jesus, for listening to my prayer. Talk again soon. Finishing my prayer with amen sounded just a bit too pious for me at that particular point in time. Much later in my spiritual walk, I shuddered to think that I could have been so audacious and cocky as to try and bargain with God in my conversion prayer, to reach an agreement where I would give lifelong service to him in exchange for receiving Joan's love. God really must have an outstandingly merciful nature and an even more amazing sense of humor. I felt a wave of relief pass through me, rather like I used to feel as a small child when, after being found out for having done something really bad, I had, with sorrowfully bowed head, owned up to my father for my misdemeanors. Instead of being scolded or spanked, however, as I no doubt deserved, I had been willingly forgiven and was gently lifted up into his arms to demonstrate that I was still loved, irrespective of whatever I had done. I felt as if my life up to this point was like having been trapped in a cold, filthy mud hole into which I had fallen, but now I had been rescued, washed clean, and was warm and dry again. My whole being was inexplicably tingling with a sense of joy and spiritual exhilaration that I had never experienced before.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm sure that as others read the book and they go on their own spiritual journey, by you being so real about how your conversion story is, that they know that they too can have their own conversion story, that they can talk to God, be intimate with God, however's best for them at that time, and that God will hear and answer their prayer. And as we see, God really did answer your prayer. If you continue to read, those of you who have the book and you read what happens, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but God truly did answer his prayer, and Skip truly stuck to his word, that he went and he transformed his life, and the rest, as we say, is history. So we just want to thank God for your life. We want to thank God for the journey that he has taken you on so far. We thank you for allowing us all to be the reason why we're here today. So if it wasn't for you writing this book, we wouldn't be here today. But we just want to thank God for your life. We thank God for Joan's life, and we just pray, and David as well, who's part of this journey. And we just want to say to God to just continue to be with you, to continue to bless you, and to allow this book to go to places we never would have imagined. And that when people read your conversion story, that they too will be writing to you of how they got to know the God in the book as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. I just noticed that David's wife, Elena, has been sitting there quietly throughout this 2 hours and she hasn't said a word. So, Elena, I don't know if you have anything to say.
I wasn't planning on saying anything, but hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I think it's just a privilege to be part of this family. So we recently got married, and yeah, I've only read part of the book so far, so I'm quite excited to see kind of more of my father-in-law's life and kind of revealed to me in those words. I know a lot of where the story went already, but I'm just excited to kind of see all the details of it. I've heard lots of the stories in person, and yeah, Deniz, or Dad, he's really good at storytelling, and I'm really glad that he's written this book, that lots of people can enjoy that, and he's written it really well, so it's very exciting for me. Yeah.
Thanks, Elena.
I should probably say Elena has actually heard, I suppose, a lot of the book and a lot of the conversations as the book was getting from its early version into its later versions, and then the later versions, and then the final version. So she's, I guess, you know, what it's like in any family, you're all part of it together. So she's been part of the editing as well, really, because you've been there the whole time. And
there've been a couple of suggestions that might have been mine in there, but not really, not much.
And any time the editing went late, it sounded familiar how my dad and Floyd stayed up late and wrote music, and now my dad and I have stayed up late editing this book, and of course that impacts Elena. So she's been very patient, and just felt that you're very encouraging and supportive in that, you know, long process. And just publicly say thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Dave. And I don't know if Joan would just like to say a quick word. She's here in the background. Come, honey.
Well, I was going to say more, but I'll just congratulate Deniz Skip for this book, which is very humorous, and it's a true story of what happened in a small village in Jamaica, and is a true story of the school and the children and the wonderful way they were. So many congratulations. I had something longer to say, but I can see Marsha Rood and Glenys Johnson and Angela Wright and some people I don't recognize, Joy Brathwaite. So I think probably not much time left. So probably you want to give them a minute or so to say something. So I'll stop.
That's okay. We can continue a bit longer. It doesn't matter if people, you know, people can stay. As I said, we don't have to finish at 6. Depending, if people need to leave, they can leave, but we can continue on if it's a bit longer. So yes. So go on.
And I'm just quite interested to hear what Mum has to say as well.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear a little bit more, Joe, what you had prepared to say.
Well, I wrote something to say. I'm not sure I'm too off the cuff. I wasn't going to say anything. So I just wanted to say it's with great pride and pleasure that I congratulate my husband, Deniz Skip, lovingly known as Pine, for his diligent determination and dedication to write about his eventful life as a young Englishman of 21 years, sent to teach in a small, probably never before written about village, Frankfield, in the middle of rural Jamaica. When COVID-19 struck the world, many governments demanded that their citizens isolate themselves, stay at home, save lives, became the mantra. While I decided to take to the outdoors and try to transform our front garden, Skip had more lofty ideas. I'm going to write my book, he said. Day after day, I gardened while Pine sat at the computer, beavering away. Eventually, the dining room table was totally taken over. Our first solitary Christmas came and went, and still our Christmas tablecloth could not be removed. Skip and his book had taken over the dining room. I eventually accepted the inevitable. The book had to take priority. The book is a heartwarming, humorous, almost totally accurate account of village life and teaching in a big comprehensive school in Jamaica in the 1970s and 80s. Congratulations again, Deniz, Pine. And thank you, David, for editing this book. And for Elena for putting up with the long editing hours in her first year of marriage, going on until like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm used to it, but I don't think she is.
Not yet.
Not yet. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you for sharing. It was important.
Yeah,
It was important that you spoke because you're part of this whole story. Yes, so thank you for sharing.
Ruth, may I just say something? There is a parallel story there, a very powerful lesson for young ladies to learn just by following what Joan did, her behavior, her attitude, her sticking to her God and not laying down anything. That's a powerful lesson. And so thank you, Joan. I pray that a lot of ladies will take a page from your book.
Thank you. Hey.
Oh, there's Philip now.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I don't know if my mic is.
Yes, yeah, we're hearing you loud and clear, Philip.
Okay, yes, it's been a crazy day, Skip, as I told you before, but we have just a few minutes before we have to tend to the next Zoom meeting. But what a joy and hearty congratulations, Skip, for this masterful work, which you have done in record time. We're so delighted and happy to be a part of that work. And of course, to all the other members of the participants of this book launch, I want to greet you here from England. Skip has been my physics teacher in high school in 1976 to 78, somewhere there, Skip. Must be about 78. So it has been an absolute pleasure, Skip, with the teaching and with the work in the Sonic Salvation Gospel Band there. Joan working along with you at the mixing board and all the concerts all over Jamaica and elsewhere. And of course, with the scouting, it's been an absolute pleasure, and even more so here in England, to be a part of your lives here in England. So hearty congratulations, Skip, for this masterful piece of work. And thank you again for asking me to write an endorsement for your book. And I'm so delighted for you. It is an authentic, genuine, true to life work of love and conversion experience and your experience in education and all the great work you have done in Jamaica and beyond, especially in the Bahamas and back here in England, but more so in Jamaica. And Rona and I are very thrilled to be a part of your lives. I know it's been a bit tight, I said before, but we are so delighted. Just got off the road and getting ready for another meeting. But thank you, Skip, for
allowing us to be a part of this experience. And we wish you all the very best, every success. May this book reach far and wide in shedding light on this tremendous work which you have done. We are so proud of you, and Joan, congratulations. And also Dave and Elena, we wish you God's richest blessing, and to all of the participants of this platform at this time. God bless you richly from Kent in England.
Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Philip.
Most welcome, thank you. Okay, that's my Skype message ringing now, so I have to go and take another call now. God bless you much.
God bless you.
Okay.
I don't know if Glenys Johnson is there still and wants to say anything.
Hello, good day.
Hello, Glenys.
I hope everyone is well. Hi. I like to say I really enjoyed this today. My father couldn't be here, unfortunately. He had to be at a funeral, so he sends his apologies. But yes, listening to these stories, I have grown up, my guy's Glenn Johnson, and I've grown up with these stories. They've actually become something like legends. And it's really interesting to when I think about it, you know, all of those wonderful events that happened way back in the day had such a lasting impact on the lives of so many. But those experiences, there's something that they pass on to their children. So Uncle Skip, yes, I will call him Uncle Skip until the day I die. I'm just taking this time to say thank you. Thank you for what you did, because it goes well beyond that generation of individuals who you taught, but to their children, and hopefully to their children's children as well. So God bless you and Auntie Joan. Good to see you, David and Elena, and greetings from the Bahamas. And happy belated anniversary.
Thank you, Glenys. Glenys didn't say that her father, Glenn, was actually one of the first keyboard players in Sonic Salvation Gospel Band. So we have a long musical history.
Okay,
I don't know if Marcia is there and wants to say anything.
Hello, Uncle Skip and Auntie Joan and everyone else. I don't know if can everyone hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, great. Yeah, I know I've had some internet trouble, so I'll be quick. But I am so excited to read the book. I mean, I've enjoyed the excerpts that I have heard so far. They've been hilarious and humbling at the same time. But I am so glad to know to have grown up with Uncle Skip and Auntie Joan, and David are considered my brother. Before my brother came, you know, I can remember just the experiences of going to the beach with Uncle Skip and Auntie Joan and David. And my favorite experience was when we came out of the water from Cabbage Beach and walked all the way up to the car. There was the much dreaded but expected flogging of the sand off of us. But you know, I just so appreciate who Uncle Skip and Auntie Joan and David have been in our lives. You know, moving from Jamaica to the Bahamas. My family in particular, we didn't have any other relatives. So Uncle Skip and Auntie Joan were really their family, and Uncle Floyd as well. You know, so I'm just grateful to you for who you have been to our family over these many, many years. And God bless you guys continually with life and strength. And I can't wait to read the book.
Thank you, Marcia.
It was Grace Day.
Where? Grace, I don't know if you want to say anything. This is Alvin's wife.
Hi, Skip. Hi, Joan.
Hello.
Hi, Grace.
Hi, Grace.
Yeah, just want to say a huge congratulations to you, Skip, for your hard work and for producing this excellent book. I heard you reading there. It's just so awesome. And it's, you know, I got a chance to meet Skip because of Alvin. You know, Skip was a dear friend of Alvin, and so I had a chance to meet him. And then eventually Skip was part of our wedding. he was our best man in our wedding. And we've had a long relationship all these years, and just so happy that you're both in our lives. David came along, and now David is married. Congratulations. And this is awesome. But Skip, honestly, the book is awesome. I'm so proud of you. So thankful for the hard work that you put in it and for the treasure that it will be to so many of us. Just looking back and reminiscing and helping us to move forward as well. So awesome job.
Thank you, Grace. Regnerine, are you there still? Regnerine Brown? No, maybe she's gone. How about Larry? Lawrence Wright?
He did already.
He did? Oh, yes, he did.
It's probably gone.
Yeah.
I'm still here, Skip.
Oh, is that Regnerine?
Yes, Dainty, Regnerine.
Yes.
I didn't have the pleasure of it. Nice to see you and Joan too. Hello.
We can't see you.
Yeah. Oh my. All right, let me put my. Can you see me now?
There we are. Hello, Regnerine.
Can you see me now?
Another keyboard player from Sonic Salvation.
Yes, I was.
Where's your sound?
We're seeing you, we're not hearing you.
We can see and hear you fine. Can you hear us? Maybe it's the headphones.
Take off the headset.
Might need to take off your headset.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, yeah.
Yeah, we hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I was saying that I did not have the pleasure of being one of Skip's physics students. Science wasn't my thing. But we used to stand by his car, the staff room used to be close to our classroom. So we used to stand by to watch him and Joan. Joan used to stand by the door until Skip comes to open the door for her. So we used to admire both of them as couples. And then after I left high school, that was when I became closer to Skip, in that he thought I would be a good piano player for his band. But in my mind, I wasn't a group player. I was not a folk player, but I was a classical pianist. So I didn't know how I would fit into that. But he saw me as one of his players, so I took on the challenge. But I spent most of the time doing solos on the flute instead. But I learned quite a lot about playing in groups and learning to play by ear and learning to jam, as we call it in Jamaica. But that was never my training as a folk musician. But then we became closer in that when we go for band practices, by this time I was living in Kingston, so the girls used to travel together, myself and Sheila and Sonia and Beulah at one time, and we used to stay over at Skip. And I remember I was on this long summer holiday.
Connection.
Oh, we've lost her. Oh, there we are.
You're back.
Joan was going off to the university to do some studies. holiday studies. And I was on this long summer holiday and she asked me if I could stay with Skip until she returned for a week. And that was when we became closer. And in the evenings, we used to listen to music, play music, listen to music. And we used to eat together. I used to prepare his meals and everything. That was how we became closer. And I bought your book, Skip, and I started laughing from the beginning. I'm now at chapter 5. I didn't know you were such a good storyteller. The book held me from the beginning. I cannot put it down. And I hope this is not your first and your last book, because I'm really impressed and I did not know you were such a good storyteller. So I want to congratulate you for putting out this book. And I also want to congratulate you and Joan for holding it together for 40 years, for holding your relationship together. And it was a pleasure meeting you and knowing you.
Thank you, Regnarine.
Thank you.
God bless you.
God bless you too.
Ruth, I don't know where we are time-wise and if anybody else wants to say anything.
Joy.
Miss Regnary, this is Alvin. I'm trying to remember where you and I used to spend a lot of time together in school. How I can't remember. Regnary Brown, I know your name. I cannot remember now. What class were you in and what year?
Can't hear you.
Oh, she can't hear me. Never mind. Never mind. Well, I'll catch up. I'll catch up. Go ahead, Skip.
Yeah, I don't know if any of those names who are on the screen, I see Joy Braithwaite, Galaxy A31, Asus, Carol B. If any of those would like to say anything.
Asus.
I said it.
Where's Sheila? I haven't heard from Sheila.
No, I haven't heard from Sheila.
Maybe she couldn't get on.
Right, Ruth, I think that might be it then.
Okay, then. Well,
Ruth, can I just apologize for my family because I know some of them wanted to come on, but my mom's not very well, and I think they're bringing her home from hospital today. So that's why none of my family have come on.
Well, I wish your mum well. Yes, I wish your mum well.
Hi, everybody. This is Deniz. Hi, Alvin.
Hello, Deniz. How are you?
You might see my name as Vanessa on the screen. And you must be wondering, who is this person? It's the same person, but there's a long story behind that name. So we go way, way back. And it was good to see Larry. I think I taught Larry, it's that Jeff's brother?
Yes.
Larry, I taught you in school. I used to spank you. Yes, that's a
long time ago. I must have deserved it.
Larry, do you remember me?
I vaguely.
Miss Whitaker.
I must have been.
You were a baby. Yes. This was a wonderful, and again, Skip, I want to wish you much success with this book. I can't wait to read it. Like I said before, it's an order, and I know Claudine and myself are very close, and she's been keeping me abreast. I say I don't want to hear the stories because I want to read them for myself. So, Joan and Skip, congratulations and all these many years of marriage. And it's good seeing you guys. Good
Great to
seeing
see you.
Good seeing you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Deniz. Angela, are you there?
Angela Wright.
let me get her to say something. Alvin.
Yes.
Greetings.
Good. And salutations, my brethren. Hi, Larry.
Hi, Larry.
So, Ms. Deniz, Miss Whitaker, your spanking must have worked really well because he's now principal of Harborview Primary School.
Wow. So impressed. I am just so impressed. Larry. He was this little skinny boy. Hi, Grace.
Hello, Denise. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So what I'm going to do is I'm not sure if anyone else wants to talk. So what I'm going to do is, obviously, this is reunion time for some of you as well, haven't seen each other. So I'm going to formally close the book launch. I'm going to stop the recording so that then you all can talk and share about your life back in Jamaica, teachers, etc. But we'll just close it. So on behalf of myself, with Pearson from the publishing company Listening to Your Voice, I'd like to say thank you for joining us this afternoon for the primary book launch of Colour of My Heart, a true story of hope, perseverance, and love. And I'm sure that this won't be the last book launch. I'm sure this is just going to be the beginning of this journey. And I'm just praying for God's blessing over the book, because I know that the book's going to go from strength to strength. So thank you for entrusting me with this book, and let's go on this journey. And as we say, we've already prayed over the book. We prayed over several times of the journey, and we know that God's blessing is on the book, and that lives will be changed and transformed as they read your love story, and as they see the person that, all the different ways that you just transform life in Jamaica, in that village. And, that little village in Jamaica, when you went there as a teacher, you gave up. He didn't share with you that he had the opportunity he could have been doing a research student, but instead he went to Jamaica and loved the island so much that he gave up that goal to embrace this story and the characters and the lives that was here. So those of you who were his students, you had such a big influence on his life that he stayed in Jamaica with you because you made such a big difference. And he just thought, how can I leave the students in Jamaica to come back to the UK to take up this research post? I need to stay there and continue teaching you. And you now are a credit to him, because now you have passed on that legacy to others. So if we get impressed by others, and as our lives get transformed by others, let us go and be that transformation to others.
Thank you, Ruth.
Okay. Angela is there.
Oh.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go on.
Actually, just about the time. Thank you for the opportunity to say something. Actually, just about the time when you were calling on me, the bandwidth went so low and it just kept circling. So I had to come upstairs to use Larry's phone instead of the computer I had on downstairs. How are you all? It has really been a very, okay. I'm so glad for the privilege of watching the entire book launch, and looking forward to it. There's an Amazon store fairly nearby here, so I'm going to be going there this coming week and putting in my order. Okay. All right, so I don't know. I don't know what else I didn't know, because I wasn't really a member of the Sonic Salvation. But, pardon me, Floyd?
I'm saying good to see you.
I really wasn't a member of Sonic, but my husband, Larry. Always good to see you too. Say hi to Rosie for me. You guys bring back days of Kingsway Academy in Nassau. Skip, Joe.
You were part of Sonic Phase 2 there.
Rosie.
Can I just say
Possibly.
a few?
I was going to say, Skip, you have the final words. I've finished my words. You need to finish off. You have the final words.
I just need to thank a few people. So first of all, I want to thank God that he has seen me through to this point in my life. I thank God that I've found the lady I wanted to marry and she accepted. And we've stuck together for 44 years and hopefully for many more. I thank God for being blessed with a godly son, David, whose contribution to the book is inestimable. And for Elena, his wife, for being so patient for the time he spent with me. And I thank God for some of the people who are so close to me, like brothers, blood brothers, the people who've written the tributes at the front of the book, Alvin and Philip and Floyd and Clifton. Thank you to all of you. And I hope I'm not missing anyone. Well, thank you for everybody who's spoken, but now a special thanks to Ruth, my publisher, without whom none of this would have been possible. And I know that our coming together was not, I don't believe in coincidence. It was God ordained that Ruth would be my publisher, and I wouldn't have wanted anyone else to undertake that role. So thank you, everybody. It's been such a blessing to be able to see your faces and hear what you've had to say this afternoon. And I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
I think Sheila is here, but she's having trouble unmuting. She may be the Mystery Galaxy A31. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to unmute in time, but she is. Oh,
I'm trying.
Yeah, there we go.
Am I there?
Great.
Am I there?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I'm there. Can you
turn on the video, Sheila?
Hold on.
Dad, why don't you
hold on,
Sheila, while she's trying to.
I don't know what it's doing, but can you see now?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, now we can see you, girl.
Okay. I've been here all the time. I've been listening. It's been all good. But not being tech savvy, I decided not to touch anything. Let me just stay right here and listen, lest I made a wrong move and bump myself off. But I'd love to say congratulations, Skip, congratulations to Joan, and also congratulations on your anniversary. I actually got my book. I don't know. Yeah, you can see it. I actually got 2 books, 2 copies. I'm thinking of giving one to Kelsey in Hamilton. I have a feeling you guys are pretty close. I don't know. Yeah. So I ordered 2 and figured I'd give her one based on all she did regarding, us Jamaicans coming here to settle in and all that kind of stuff. She's always been a fan of Sonic. But congratulations, guys. It's been all good. What do I say? I don't talk. I'm not one to speak a lot, but my time with Sonic has been a blessing. I consider you guys probably my second family. My parents, my brothers, I don't know how to call Skip and Joan my parents, but you have been like parents to me. I'm retired now, so how do I call you parents? What? You have been like parents to me, and of course, Floyd, Larry, Prince, Prince, oh dear, Fern, you have all been like brothers, real blood brothers. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed all the trips we went on across the island of Jamaica. I'm from Portland, so I had to do that long traveling. I would travel from Port Antonio, usually on a Friday afternoon, hit Kingston, get on a minibus, and then come over to Frankfield. Okay, so that in itself was quite an experience for me. The band, oh boy, I thoroughly enjoyed our travels. Some of the things that I remembered was the way we would sing in the band as we traversed, as we went across the islands, beautiful sceneries. I usually say to persons in the group, man, if we had cameras, video cameras, I don't think we were even aware of those back then. But my thing was, geez, as we're singing, it would be such a wonderful thing if we could capture the beauty of the island as we, traversed. Now the book, I started cracking up from day one. There were so many things that I was not aware of that happened, that transpired in Deniz and Joan's lives. It's amazing how little you know of people in spite of how close you get to them. You really don't know a lot. And in this book, so much has come out. And so I thank you. I really appreciate what you've done, Skip and Joan, for feeding us, for caring for us, for teaching me how to dress. As a girl raised by her dad, there are so many things I didn't know. And so I really, and of course in the bush, Portland in the mountains, I grew up in the mountains as a country bumpkin. So Joan played a very, very important, she was a very important person in my life. And I wanted to know that I appreciate it. Great job, guys. I don't think I'll say much more. I had written it all down. It's on paper, but I think I'll stop there. All right, nice.
Thank you, Sheila. Can I just say, for those who don't know, Sheila was one of the lead singers in Sonic Salvation Gospel Band and also wrote many of the songs which we recorded on our albums. And she is David's godmother.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And thanks, David, for getting me on. I just didn't know what to do to get this thing going, but I could hear everything, and that was good. Thank you.
You're looking too young to talk about retirement, Sheila.
Oh, well, I have already retired, Floyd. Thank you very much. I've been kept, thank God. But look at Joan. Look at Joan. Skip and Joan, I was saying to somebody, boy, these guys seem as if they've found the forever young secret, you know. What are you taking?
Okay, so Skip, the final word is yours.
Well, just to say again, thank you, everyone, and thank you to God for all his blessings.
Before you say the final amen, Skip, I just want to say, Ruth, that you see how many good storytellers we have from Frankfield, from the Frankfield experience. You can Skip and Alvin and Floyd together.
And Larry.
No,
and Sheila is also a writer, you know.
So maybe maybe the next book they should all write their. So I write. I'm part of anthology. So maybe what we should do is get all of them together, and instead of writing one person, they all write their experiences and come together and form a book.
That's a
fantastic idea.
So they all can write a couple of chapters and we put it together as a book.
But you know, Ruth, also, I know Alvin didn't want to toot his own horn, but he's an author. And if you read If Caterpillars Could Fly, So Can I. Fantastic.
Was that his book?
That's his book. Yeah.
I've heard of that book. I didn't realize that she was Alvin. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and
by the way, go ahead.
Yeah, and I have two out as well, Leadership by the Book, and there's another one, The Voice. Let me not talk about, but I also write.
Okay.
Direct talk, and I know Sheila is also not just a musician, but she writes. Sorry, Alvin, go ahead. Talk. I like that. If Caterpillars Could Fly, go ahead.
I've heard of that book, Alvin. I know that I need to go and get a copy of it.
Oh, that's wonderful. And by the way, have you guys heard the song that was created after this book by Agent Sasco?
No.
You have to go to, you know what, I'll put a link in here. The Lord has been really good. A famous reggae artist has actually read this book, and we contracted with him to write a song that became an immediate hit, and people are singing it. So I'll see if I can find the link to that YouTube, and it'll be great if you guys watch it and give a little feedback.
Yeah, if you can share, if you share the link with Dennis, and then he can share it on with us.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, and people are using it for graduation ceremonies and so forth. But that's good. And of course, Floyd, the master writer, and who else? Anybody else here has written or is in the process of writing?
As Floyd mentioned, I've also written a short story, but it's sitting there. Several short stories, and they're just sitting there. One was published, but I think I may not have chosen the right publisher. So that's another story.
Here's a publisher. I know one I can recommend. Right, Ruth?
Yes. I'm sitting right here.
Yeah. Amen to that.
And Skip, before we go, I just want us to observe a moment of silence in memory of Joseph Collins, Prince, Grace Nelson, and Edwin
Dennis.
Edwards, Zinn, and Dennis Easington.
Yeah.
Those are 4 Sonicites who have departed to join the welcome party upstairs. So, you know, we pray that they rest in peace.
Amen. Amen. Okay.
I want to do this. Please let's pray. Father, I just thank you for the power of who you are, your presence here, there, and everywhere. Thank you for the connection that only you can cause to happen, so that time, space, distance, years, age cannot separate us from you. And so we just thank you for the experiences, the lives, the blessings, the favor that you have poured out on all. And I ask you now that every person who has been on this line and those who have left this meeting, I pray also for every person who will read the color of my heart, that they will find a joy and be able to bring peace and comfort in this divided world, this world of prejudice. And I ask, oh God, that you deliver us from sorrow, shame, and sadness, and may our lives be filled with joy. May our homes or places of worship or vehicles be constantly filled with the glory of who you are. We just thank you and we bless you. Cover the work of our dear sister Ruth in this publishing experience, and may this company grow from strength to strength and produce the kind of literature that will continue to change lives. Cover Dennis and the rest of his family, everyone on this line. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. God bless you all.
Bye, guys. Nice to see you all.